Hello, I'm Bob Butler from KCBS Radio, and welcome to a forum of candidates running for the seat for the Contra Costa County Board of Education representing Area 3. Well, that's Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, Concord, Martinez, Pacheco, Pittsburgh, and parts of Clayton. Today's forum is sponsored by the Contra Costa County Elections Division, Contra Costa TV, and the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley and West Contra Costa. We're holding this roundtable via Zoom, so there might be some surprises, and taping it in the Contra Costa County TV studios. Please note that the candidates' names that appear on the screen may include their campaign email addresses in case you want to contact them. Candidates for this office are Vicki Chavez and Anna Marie Avila Farias. Now, this is going to be a bit of a different format. Vicki has to go teach a class. They can't wait. So we're going to talk to her, and then we'll talk to Anna Maria. Vicki, if reelected, what is your top priority?
Well, my top priority as a governing board member is to ensure the education excellence for all students and ensure equity and for the students, their caregivers, and their teachers. And I will continue advocating for underserved students.
What about what's the current financial picture for the district, the budget, and all that?
The budget it's not wonderful, but we are doing okay. And it's not as bad as it could be, and because we have a surplus, and so far we're okay.
What do you think of this on the election on the ballot in a couple of weeks? Going to have Prop 15. What do you think of that?
Prop 15. We need the money for the schools. We need the money for all the services that it's going to help. And I think without it, we're counting on that to pass. And I think it has a really good chance to pass.
What do you say to the local business owner whose taxes are going to increase?
Well, I think it'll go for the larger business owners whose taxes should increase. The smaller ones, not as much.
I see.
That's who they need to get more taxes from, is the large corporations and Disneyland and, places that have not been paying their fair share. And hopefully that's going to make up for the things, it's not perfect, but that should help. That's going to be 80% of it right there.
What else can the district do to, what ways can you raise revenue besides tax dollars?
Keep this, we have to be successful with the distance education that we're doing now. But if we don't have the children's behinds in the seats in the schools, that's where we get our money, the ADA. And it's like, we have to make sure that this is a success. And distance education is really hard because of the digital divide that we're fighting. We have to have success this semester, and that'll make a big difference going forward and supporting our students, parents, and the people that care for them.
So how does ADA work now, because students aren't actually in class?
Well, they're in class though. They're in class. The same. The students are, they're doing. I'm amazed at the students they're doing the work at home, sitting there at their desk. I mean, I have friends and colleagues whose children, there's like 3 of them lined up next to each other at their desk with the teacher doing the work, and they're engaged. They're engaged. The problem is getting the ones that can't get internet.
How do you solve that problem? How do we solve that problem?
Well, we solve that problem by, making sure Comcast and all these different people actually serve the communities. At first they were supplying internet. Oh, we'll give you low cost internet, $10 a month, or you can get it free. But they were saying that, oh, if you have a past due balance on your bill, you're not going to get the internet. Well, that's ridiculous. That's just not fair for students. So they need, it's better that they need to provide more access, or the students can't do their work. I mean, last semester, my students had to drive over to the school and sit in the parking lot because they didn't have a hotspot to do their work. And that's unacceptable.
Going forward,
it's digital divide. We got to get them internet.
So digital divide, we're talking internet. What about computers? I have an experience where I have a friend of mine whose daughter needed a computer, got it from her high school. It was an old computer, wouldn't work. So we had to we ended up getting a new computer, but how do we solve that problem? Because
That's disappointing. Right. That is the issue. So they're giving Chromebooks, but not everybody, so there's two things. We have equity and we have equality. I don't think the student living in Lafayette that has all of that, the access to the internet, to the computer, to, more, you can't compare that to the student living maybe in the monument area of Concord or different places that doesn't have that. So that's not equal. So we have to bridge that gap between equity and equality for the students.
We're asking business like Comcast to
Right.
do more for the students. At the same time, we're saying we want to raise their taxes. How's that going to go over?
Well, they can afford it. They can afford it. And this is nothing new. Comcast has been fighting this for years and years. And now they're being made to do it. They're not the only one, but everybody has seen the children sitting at Taco Bell doing their homework, everybody's seen that picture. Social media went crazy with it, but that's not uncommon and it's not fair. In LA, Compton, you can't compare to Hollywood or not Hollywood, but Beverly Hills. It's not equal. We have to get them together. And that has to be with conquering this digital divide. And we have a lot of people who are working on that now. So it could happen. It's going to take time, but it is better now. Supposedly you don't need to pay. They just announced a few weeks ago, I guess you don't have to pay your bill, but why did that even happen? We're doing this last semester also, not just this semester.
Given what we've seen with the pandemic, given what we've seen now with distance learning, what do you see next year? What do you see after we get a vaccine? Are we going to have still some component of distance learning?
Well, we've always had distance learning. It's, some of our schools, that's what they do. The children's in the juvenile hall, they do distance learning. But I don't think we might have a little bit of it, sure. But for the parent sitting at home that, the mom works at Target and the father, is doing construction, how are they supposed to do distance learning with their kid? They can't do pods. Not everybody's going to get 5 or 6 students together and do a pod. So we just have to get them through this semester. Hopefully they're in the classroom where things are getting better. In November, there's some changes happening that we're getting ready for our county schools. The County Board of Education, they're getting ready possibly in November to, especially the special needs children. Oh my gosh. Our special needs children, their parents and caregivers are, the teachers are just really reaching out to them, and we have to get those schools open. And it could be the end of the year that it could change for at least for that. For
One last question for you. What's the absentee rate with distance learning?
Well, the absentee rate is not good. It's not good. But for our county schools, what we do is after a few days, if we don't see the students' faces, they'll not just call, they'll go track them down and see what's going on in the home. And they try, we need to locate where they're at and see sometimes there's just a problem. The parents aren't home to help them. So a lot of times the teachers will go in and do that. But in the County Board of Education, we are doing that. We are going and tracking down the students, and more schools need to start doing that. I think they are. But that's the way you get the attendance up, is make something's wrong. And then, what's wrong? How can we help? There's the one thing about this, we're all in this together. And we, as a teacher, I want to help my students. I want to help them, navigate all of this. I have students that have just been able now after 4 weeks to join my class because they had children and little ones. So we're making do. And that's how we get the attendance, as you accommodate the students and you understand and listen to them. We have to listen to the needs of the parents, the teachers, and then the students to see how we can solve a problem. And as the county board does, we are doing that.
Vicki, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that we got started late.
Right.
Let's get a closing statement from you so you can get to your class.
Okay, thank you. I am really thankful to be a governing board member for the County Board of Education. I'm the president now, and it's been just really a joy. My family has been long in public service, starting with my late husband, who was on the Concord City Council, but we met so many people that we were able to network with and be involved in community activities. And it's just, it's been wonderful. I became interested in education even more with my child had issues in school after, especially with losing their father. And so I learned to navigate the system to get the best daughter. Yeah, she won't mind my saying it, and it wasn't easy, and not everyone can do that. And I want to help advocate for other children and their families that don't know how to do it. And it's every student's right to have the best public school education. They're entitled to it. And, I'll just continue advocating for that. And school is not a one size fits all, because every student has different needs. Is that in 1 minute? I don't know. I forgot what you said. School, all. It doesn't matter. They can go to a charter school. They're public schools too. There's schools. We all are equal here. And each child has they're entitled and they deserve to the best public school education that they can find. And, I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
I've worked 16 years at Laney. I know the racial justice lens is one of the most important things also now. And, I've been involved in that at Laney. We're just trained to learn, introduce books for the students to see. And that's what we've done in our county schools, is our reading for relevance. Where these
your class is waiting for you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the time spending with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for getting me out of here. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. As I mentioned, another candidate for this position is Anna Marie Avila Farias, who has been waiting patiently because of the circumstances with our Zoom. Anna Marie, if you're elected, what are you going to do?
Yes, good morning, Bob. Thank you for having me. If I'm elected, I am going to bring strong, bold leadership to the Board of Education that is desperately needed. I am going to be focusing on inclusion programs, focusing on our budget, and most importantly, focusing on our special needs programs and expanding programs if elected.
I noticed you've done a lot of public service, city council for Concord. How will that experience, if you are elected, help you with this role?
Well, I think, as we all know, 2020 has been challenging on so many fronts for all of us in every industry: education, government, private sector, small business owners. I think my skills are desperately needed. I have nearly a 30-year experience, work history in public service, administering local, state, and federal programs. I have political connections. I have deep community connections that I think are all very strong assets to bring the leadership required at the Board of Education during this very difficult time. Especially since not only through the state of California, we're going to be experiencing severe budget deficits at all levels, especially of education. And the County Board of Education is not immune to this. School boards locally are going to experience a $1 to $2 million shortages in the next 1 to 3 years. And the County Board of Education is in the same boat. And there needs to be financial leadership. And I have that experience. I serve I'm a gubernatorial appointee at the state of California. We're the largest bank in California for government loans for affordable housing. We manage a $45 million budget. I bring strong budgetary fiscal steward leadership to this position. And I think that's what we're going to need to get through the next 2 to 3 years on the County Board of Education.
What is the current financial status of the board?
They're currently facing severe budget cuts, and they're going to have to realign their budget. They have not rolled out what the plan's going to be. The most recent financial report was done in June. that talks about these shortages and that they're going to have to recalibrate in the coming months of how to address those deficits, like many school boards.
Yeah, when you talk about deficits, I mean, I think everybody is expecting some kind of a hit because of the pandemic. The one possible solution, not because of the pandemic, but just going forward, is Prop 15, as I mentioned with Ms. Chavez. What do you think of Prop 15?
I wholeheartedly support Prop 15, and all of us in California should support it. As a public education advocate, we need this to short gap the deficits that are going to happen if we don't do it. It's going to be detrimental to our communities, to our children. We need to advance education, not only in our nation, but in California, and we need to be very progressive on that front. I know you brought up the taxes. This is only going to impact larger businesses that are making over $3 million. This is not going to hurt the mom and pops and small businesses in our communities. It's simply asking them to pay their equitable share in taxes in the state of California. And that threshold is pretty high for $3 million. That's not going to impact many people in our county because we are predominantly small businesses. But the bigger ones, like our refineries, I think we should all be okay that if they're profiting in our communities, they're hitting those thresholds of over $3 million a year, then, I think we should all be on board with this and support it and get it voted in to mitigate any more harm to our children around education.
Say you're elected. What's the first thing you do?
I think my biggest concern right now is, making sure that, one, a lot of people don't realize what the County Board of Education does. And it's really sad because I think it plays a very critical role in our community, especially since it deals with the most vulnerable in the education system. Number one, it deals with children who are in the court system, who are incarcerated in the juvenile justice system. It deals with, first generation individuals, immigrant families who are trying to advance their education. And thirdly, which is very dear to my heart, are special need programs in the county. So my first order of business would be to get in connection with all the school board members. We have oversight of the school boards in Contra Costa County. There's 11 of them, and connect with them and get familiar with, I'm going to be a county Board of Education leader that doesn't just care about my area 3. I'm going to care about the whole county's education infrastructure. Because we all need to be successful in education for our children, whether you live in East County, West County, Central County, because there are inequities. And so I think my first order of business is to really get a pulse on what's going on in the county, in our education, and improve the infrastructure through my leadership on the County Board of Education.
You mentioned 2020 and how difficult of a year this has been with the pandemic, and we've had murder hornets, we've got floods, we've got tornadoes, we've got hurricanes.
Right.
What has the county done right when it comes to distance learning that you can see?
I think it comes down to the teachers. I'm so impressed. I have small school-age children, and I'm at home, as we can see from my living room, taking the role as parent and educator, and such respect and admiration for what our teachers do in the classroom every day. And now having to transition to, a virtual environment and get to learn children through a new medium. So I think overall what I've seen, and I have attended numerous school board meetings throughout the county, and I think the sentiment is the same, that there's lots of accolades to happen for the educators out there, really making the best of a horrible situation for all of us, in particular our children. So I think on that front, deploying very quickly, pivoting. We could have all just stuck our heels in the sand and said, we're not going to do this and be angry about it. Instead, everybody rolled up their sleeves. We're in it together. And we're making the best of it, as a parent, the educators, the administrators. And so I have nothing but respect for everyone who is currently occupying a space of education. And I think that's what we've done well, is being able to make the best of a situation. As you know, it's all about attitude and how we're going to embrace it, because children feed off of that. And it's important as a parent, as an educator, that and administrators, that we put our best game face on to move forward as we navigate this very dangerous pandemic.
We talked earlier about the pandemic and distance learning and the disparities, the digital divide. How do you quickly fix that?
Well, Bob, the irony in this is I have a master's in information systems, and my thesis was done in bridging the digital divide almost 20 years ago. And I never thought, in reading my paper again and looking at it, that it is so relevant to today. We've always had a digital divide, whether in every stage of advancement of technology. And it has been ignored and unaddressed. And I think now it's hit us right smack center in the forehead. And now it is a time to reckon, that we have not done a good job as a society, as a community, to assure that all children have an equitable access to technology. And I think, again, my technical training, informal training around technology is going to be a huge asset to the County Board of Education. And having that expertise in the digital divide, it really excites me. I mean, it doesn't excite me to be in the pandemic, and it doesn't excite me to see that my thesis paper is coming to fruition. But I am excited because I do feel equipped, that I will be thinking outside the box. I will be bringing that technology knowledge that I have, and work in our communities to bridge that divide. It is so critical. I mean, it's really sad to see that there are homes that this day and age do not have adequate access to technology, from hardware to the actual internet. So I look forward to remediating that and coming up with some very progressive, thoughtful solutions, because we can't go another day without really, I mean, look at us this morning. I can't even imagine, and I'm equipped. My blood pressure went up. It was stressful. I can't imagine what that would feel like for a child, waiting to be logging in and having difficulties with technologies. And then let's think about the children who are at home, possibly not supported by parents because they're at work. I can't imagine what that feels like. And here, as an adult, we all endured it right now, trying to figure out how to troubleshoot getting online. So I think we need to do a better job. And I mean, nothing's error-proof. That we need to mitigate those things and address them. And ignoring them doesn't help our situation. It doesn't support our children. That we don't know how long we're going to be in distant learning. So we need to get it right. We need to support it. We need to fund it. And we need to have the supportive services for the parents and the children out in the community to help them.
Yeah, I imagine when you talk about the digital divide 20 years ago, you were talking about how to go from 28K to 56K, from
Right.
dial-up to broadband.
Exactly. Or what it was to be automated. I remember writing about, at that time, was how we were going to start automating cash registers where, the workforce was no longer going to be needed. And here we are with self-checkout stands. And we were talking about that and people were appalled, So yes, it's a very different environment. But I think the fundamental concept is, we have always had a digital divide in our technology. It's just depending on what the advancement is. And we just haven't, as a society, seen the importance of it until we have something like this, like a pandemic, that I hope moving forward that we learn from this, that we make sure that we advance that. I mean, if we even go back to when the telephone was invented, I mean, that is also a digital divide. Not everybody had a telephone. And that gave you access to people, access to things. It's the same thing as things evolve. And we need to be more progressive as a society to make sure that it is critical that our education stay in sync with the advancements of society.
One last question. So as a board member, you'll be dealing with the teachers' unions, which want more pay for teachers. Everybody says teachers are so valuable, but when it comes to more pay, that seems to be a sticking point. How will you handle that?
Well, I have a career in public service, so that's a full disclaimer. I'm a, proud public servant. I've been serving my community since I was 16 years old, and I have chosen, we don't go into public service as a glorified profession. We're for the pay. That's the reality of it. Most public servants are underpaid, along with our teachers. They're no different. I support giving living wages to people in our community, especially in the state of California, where the cost of living is so expensive. And we need to make it a priority for people to have livable wages in very important infrastructure roles of education. And I will bring that leadership, and I will work on the budget to assure that our teachers are valued, that our budgets are, financially responsible, and that our pay is equitable.
All right, Anna Marie, thank you so much. Do you have time now for a closing statement?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. I'm really excited about my candidacy. I bring nearly 30 years of public service to this role. If I am honored to be elected, I will be a strong advocate for all children in Contra Costa County. I look forward to bringing my experience in many levels of government to this position. But most importantly, I look forward to bringing my passion around education. As a first-generation college-educated individual, I know firsthand the importance of getting the education foundation set properly, K through 12, to set you off on the right career. So I would be honored this November 3rd to be privileged with your vote, and look forward to bringing the leadership to the County Board of Education that is desperately needed of a revamping of change and leadership and vision to get us through this very difficult time and future situations that are going to arise. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Thank you to our candidates for answering these very important questions. This concludes our forum running for the Contra Costa County Board of Education on November 3rd, Area 3. Once again, our candidates, as you just heard, Anna Maria Avila Farias, and before that, Vicky Chavez. For more information on the candidates, you can go to votersedge.org. The Elections Division has set up multiple drop boxes throughout the county. For the one nearest to you, please visit www.cocovote.us or call the office at 925-335-7800. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote November 3rd. The deadline to register to vote for this election, October 19th.